All right. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Broadcasting a little earlier than usual, but I appreciate, my regulars for coming through. What's up, Malika? Shout out to you. Mr. Com, Andre, Amateur, D-Rock, what's up? Got Donnie in the house. Tiger, hey, Rue, what's going on, brothers? Trying to get it in, man, because we got to talk about something today. And let me see, we got a few more coming through. Prince Johnny, Original, Aqua, what's going on? Andre, yeah, man. So we got to talk. What's up, Miguel? Good to see you, brother. I ain't seen you in a minute. Hope you're well, man. 72 Paths, what's up? Peace to you, brother. There's a show we did last night with a couple of brothers I think you'd enjoy if you haven't checked it. Yeah, man, we in here. So we got to talk. What's up, no one? Keep it 100. What's going on? Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate. Support the channel if you will. Y'all know what to do. You see the Patreon. On Patreon, you can support both the Onyx Report as well as the Institute for Black Male Studies. Got some new shirts coming out. Still got another set that'll be out soon. So there's a lot happening. But anyway, that said, support the channel. But there's another avenue, another aspect of the Manosphere that we need to bring some attention to and definitely some support. So let me bring my brother up right now. All right. What's up, man?
What's up, Dr. T?
Yeah, Artisan MC in the house, right?
Yeah. Too much of my business. 1 second, sorry about that.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know how it is. You set up a camera, you look in it, it's like, oh, it's not right.
This
All
time,
right, now we do it.
This time you let her get her clothes on before she ran out the back, so I ain't mad at
you. You need no clothes? You need no stinking clothes?
Look, y'all know the deal. So this is Artisan MC. If you don't know, you should. And I will let him introduce himself, and we'll get into it.
What's up, everybody? It is me, the Artisan MC. I do a YouTube show every Sunday. Artisan MC, not MC Artisan. That's a different guy. Talk about geek culture, movies, movie reviews, and just my own thoughts. Sometimes I got spilling out my head when I want to get into a BGS ramble. Then I'll go off and do that. But I am currently the purveyor of a comic book store.
That's right.
My local shop that was going to close, I didn't want it to close, so I took it over. So for the last year and some change, I've been dealing with this. I've been under my ownership for about 8 months, 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
But as of tomorrow, my business license will be a year old. So
okay,
so I had a business license for a year.
You got
been in business for about 8 months, so it's been tough sledding. Put it that way.
Well, we got you got Andre Malcolm in the comments saying he's 6 blocks away from your shop. So
you should stop on through. I'll slap you 5 as soon as I sanitize my hands.
He actually says I'm outside.
Are you? See, that's how you get hit in California. Like, man, I'm outside.
You know what I mean? I don't want to contribute to anything negative, but
see what it do.
He said he's there, but he says
caught me slipping. I got my sweatpants on today. It's just gonna be hands.
He said I'm about to buy some books right now. Okay, well,
Appreciate that.
But this is the deal. So we here supporting stand-up comics. You want to tell us where you are? Give us the basic information.
So we are in El Cerrito, California, on the Bay Area, 120 San Pablo Avenue. This place has been open for about 40 years. It was opened in 1984, I want to say. I started coming to the shop in 88 as a young kid. My homeboy from Catholic school introduced me to this place. It was a hell of an artist. Shout out to Thompson Hamilton. And since that time, I've been coming here as my regular shop. My homeboy, Jeff, bought it in 2000 and took it over from the original owner who was getting out, and he ran it all the way up until last year. What's going on, man? When I took it over from him because he was getting out. I personally have not decided to punch out yet, but in this climate, it's being a little tough to run a shop. It's a bit tough to run a shop.
Well, yeah, you survived the pandemic, which a lot of places can't claim, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But we still gotta make sure we support. Not what I said in the title. I called this the Black Manosphere's comic book store mainly because you know, you've been a regular in the space probably longer than I have. You know, everybody knows you. You know what I'm saying? So you got support across the board. You just got to translate that support into, you know, something substantive. So, is that cars?
What's that?
I don't know if I'm hearing cars over there or what's.
That's cars. Let me close the door real quick.
I figured you either got cars going on or you got ghosts. Wasn't sure what it was. But anyway, so we want to support the shop.
Yeah, when it's nice, you got to open the door. But we're on a major highway, so there's cars flying by all the time when they're not at the stoplight.
Okay. We doing today's show because we want to make sure we extend some support. You're going to find the good brother's going to be on probably a number of shows today. So, you know, at the end of the day, we want you to support both himself as well as stand-up comics because this is our shop. This is our brother. He's created this. He's extended it. That shop would be closed if it weren't for him. But you know, many of us in this space, we're geeks, nerds, whatever you want to call it. We're into a lot of this. I've been reading comics for 40 years. You know what I mean? And I don't have a problem, you know, ordering them from my brother as opposed to, you know, where I usually go. So it's time.
The book is in my car right now.
It is. We're gonna do it. I'm buying it today. So yeah, so I want us to extend that support, and I want you know, Artisan to kind of tell people how they can support.
So if you would like to support, the shop itself does not have a Cash App, right? It doesn't have a Cash App. But if you want to donate through Cash App, do $@ArtisanMC and just put the message in your donation that it's for the shop. And I will kick that straight over to the shop account. Tried to do it last night. It would not let me make a Cash App account for the shop. I don't know why. Shop also has a Venmo account, which is Stand Up Comics 21. Look up Stand Up Comics or Stand Up Comics 21. You'll see a picture of the logo for the shop, Stand Up Comics. That's the one. There's also a Patreon. If you
Stand Up Comics 21.
Yeah, Stand Up Comics 21, all one word. All one word, lowercase. You should be able to find Stand Up Comics pretty easily there. And I see no one in there. No one knows he's used it. That's how he paid for the books that he ordered from me. He got that book. He got the Bible. Bless you, brother. So it's pretty straight when you actually find it. Okay. Other than that, you can also reach us at standupcomics21@gmail.com. That's directly to the store. That's what we do. That's what we look. So you have comic book orders, things you're looking for, put it in there. I will see it and get that taken care of for you. Okay.
Okay. So standupcomics21@gmail.
Yes, sir. Forgive me.
Okay. So we want to extend some support to make sure we keep things rolling. So I'll go ahead and put that.
Yeah, I recognize this brother now. He was the one at the door before we were open. I was still having my staff meeting. He was outside. Yeah, open at one. It's like, man, read the sign, Negro. You can talk. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
All right. Well, so let's talk a little bit about some of what you do over there. Tell us a little bit about what you're selling, and what people are gravitating towards, and just whatever reflections you have about the state of comics, and what and where brothers fit into that.
Well, I'll start with that point. That's actually a good. So, where do brothers fit in the comics right now? Where black men fit in the comics is that you cannot look at a popular entertainer that is a black male that is probably not a geek, that is not seriously or secretly a geek. Most notable comes out in Red Man, Wu-Tang Clan, Method Man, Vin Diesel. There's a lot of people that are actually fucking, how can I forget it? Michael B. Jordan, a huge fucking geek. To answer somebody's question in the chat, what do you call somebody who likes DBZ? You're a geek. You like Dragon Ball Z. I'd call you friend if you was in the shop. We'd talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? So black men fit into this because your voice is the only one that's actually missing from comics. Like, you can thank people like Dwayne McDuffie for actually being one, and Reggie Hudlin and Dennis Cowan, those guys who helped start Milestone Comics the first time, for actually putting black male voices out there,
right? And
putting not just black characters, but diverse characters. It wasn't just black characters in those books. They put almost everybody in that book, right? But you have to go back to their history to understand what they started. They were the ones who kind of started that idea of having a convention.
Okay.
They were the original rock stars of comic books, because what they were doing, nobody else was doing. They were doing their own thing, putting their voices out there, telling the stories that they wanted to tell with the characters that looked the way they wanted them to look. And at a certain point in time, the majors got together and made sure they went under. They did. Same situation I'm dealing with right now is the same situation that Milestone dealt with initially. That's why they went away.
Okay. Money
funding, right? Now, the resurgence in that is that understanding that black male voices in today's climate is the one thing that's missing. It's the one thing that everybody seems to have an issue with. We talk about it a lot in this space. Black male voices are actually needed. So when you talk about what the black community feels or thinks or whatever, one person they never ask is the black male. And then when they do find out what they're thinking, then they really like, down with the pearl clutching, like they didn't know this was the situation. So in comics, that's more so. If I can look across right now and look at this cover of, Aquaman, The Becoming, and see Tempest, or what's his name on there, and I'm calling it the Wet Boys cover because it looks like two dudes kissing underwater. Like, does it matter that either one of them is black?
Okay.
No. Somebody else is writing it. That's not a black person necessarily writing that book.
Yeah.
Not proposing those ideas that is what's cool and what's hip for black males. Your voices are needed. Your voices are needed. So when I run into brothers who actually produce their own work, produce their own books, like my boy Joe Thompson, this is his book, his comic selling in our store. I actually want to support that because that is something that's needed. Your voice is actually needed. It needs to be heard. Your material needs to be out there. And if you don't like some of the stuff that's going on in these books, because a lot of them are crap. Not a lot of them are crap. But if there's not more black writers and stuff like that out there, then what do you expect to get?
So wait, so you're telling me that, if you got a brother in this space, the Manosphere in particular, who's doing his own book, he can actually reach out to you and ask you if he could sell his book through your shop?
Hell yeah.
How many shops do you know of that are that available to black male independent comic book creators, most particularly in the Manosphere? How many shops would you say are that open for that?
I don't know of any, which is why, for me, I think this goes back to the conversation we were having before about being from the Bay Area, there was a bookstore in Oakland called Marcus Books.
Yeah.
And Marcus Books was the place that you can find any black author. Any black author that you wanted to find, you could find at Marcus Books.
Mm-hmm.
There was never something like that for comic book
Right.
creators.
Right.
There's a bunch of comic book creators in this area, a lot of black ones. If you go to a convention here, you will run into them at Artist Alley. You'll see them. They're
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
But they never have their books in stores.
Yeah.
They always have to go through the process of getting Diamond or somebody to pick it up and throw it in Diamond, and have to do telephone campaigns and all this stuff to try to get their books in the stores, to get, store owners to get a copy of the book, like, oh yeah, this looks okay. Yeah, we'll put it in there. Mostly it just goes in the trash.
Yeah.
Is what happens. It goes in the trash because the people that don't look like them who are in the stores don't give a fuck about carrying their book. They don't.
Right.
So my idea with coming in and trying to take this over, one of the things I wanted was, I want a section of just independent black folks, comics, that they can have their books in a store without bypassing the Diamond shit, with all that stuff. Have it in a store. Call me. I'll take a percentage off of it. I don't need all the money off the comic. I want you to sell your book.
Right.
Just direct people to come here to get it, and it'll be here for them. That's it. That's all you need to do.
Now, just to highlight that, I mean, I can speak to the rarity of what you're talking about, because I grew up in the Bay, and I remember Marcus bookstores. I remember going to Oakland. I remember going to San Francisco. But here's the thing. I used to collect comics, but then I would also collect, of course, black books. And then there were black comic books, like Brother Man. Like Brother Man was my favorite book. And you only could really get it in the black bookstore. You really couldn't get it in the regular comic book store. So, you had to find these different places. I wish I had one shop I could go to. You know what I mean? But when I would even mention it to white comic book shop owners, they didn't even know what I was talking about. Right. So you had to go to Marcus in the Bay to get that book. And of course, this is pre-internet. Right. So that was a whole nother factor. But, so I love the fact that you open that up and make it available. And this is the kind of thing we need to support. And I want to make sure brothers support it. So y'all see the Cash App, you see the Venmo, you see the email, reach out, order your books, and get a brother an opportunity, to become your primary shop. This is what we got to do. And that becomes a jumping off point, for various types of media, really. It doesn't even have to be limited to comics.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not. I flushed this idea out a while ago, and I said it out loud. Mm-hmm. And it's different when having something in your head, but then actually having to speak it out loud when somebody asks you about it. Yeah. Right. And my grand vision for this shop was for it to function as that hub of geek stuff for folks in general, or black folks specifically, just to get people into it. Because I can tell you this, there's no better joy to me than having a young kid come in the store and selling them their first comic, that this will be their first comic shop. Because there's always a special affection you have for your first comic shop. I say that standing in the shop, that was my first shop. I say that, so it's not just, I have, money that I've thrown into the place. I got sweat equity in this place too, helping remodel it when my buddy took it over.
Right.
Right. So that's a special relationship that you make in a comic shop. It is a place where you can come and actually talk to people who love the same things that you love, probably about as knowledgeable with it as you are. And you can have those long conversations about stuff that maybe most of the people in your family don't care about. I thought about this last night. It's like, I was doing some recording and stuff, and like, nobody else in my family is a geek. No. Right. I am the only geek in my family. I'm the only one who gets into this. So when I found this place, that was like my fucking mecca. Like, oh shit, I gotta go to the shop. Because in an 80s baby kind of way, in a Gen Xer kind of way, this was my cheers. Everybody knew your name, and everybody was glad you came.
Right.
And we'd always spend a lot of time talking about geek stuff, life, or whatever, the same kind of vibe I try to bring to the shop talks, because that's what it's based on. It's based on just us having a conversation in the shop. It's the same way I'm joking with this brother who was standing outside the door. I ain't mad at him personally. It's like, oh yeah, we're having a staff meeting. No, I can't let you in yet. But that's what it is. Yeah, see? that's, that's part of the fun of the place. So having a young kid come in, have that experience, and hopefully getting the parent to buy in to actually bringing them back and letting them come back. There's more stuff here than just comics. There's video games all through here. We play tabletop games, D&D. Look, if it's in geekdom, we probably do it. Probably do it. And if we don't, we will. Because if you want to come in and do it, we damn sure want to do that shit with you. Like,
do you guys do those games online in the shop? How does that work?
No, we do it in the shop. For a long time, for about 3 years in this shop, I ran a Magic the Gathering league. And every Thursday night, we'd come in and play from 7 till midnight, 2 a.m. It didn't matter. It was free. We wasn't charging for it. I just wanted the community to build up.
Right.
There's been one of the ex-coworkers that worked here, his father did a D&D every Sunday. One Sunday a month, he would do D&D here. He had his play group. They'd come, they'd do D&D. It's fine, right? So since the pandemic, we didn't do that, but other stores have done it post-pandemic. There's California laws that you have to abide by with doing it. And for me, I'm fine with that. If everybody gonna wear their mask and keep their hands off of everybody else's cards, I'm fine with that. You ain't supposed to be touching my shit anyway. So
right.
It works. It works for me, right? I'm fine with that. And for that 3 years I did it with adults and children. Saturdays were for kids, Thursday nights were for adults, because you can't have no 12-year-old out at midnight unless it's your kid. If it's your kid, it's no problem. But somebody else's kid ain't gonna be out till 2 in the morning playing Magic when they got to go to school in the morning. It's not gonna work.
Okay.
But it can still be done. We just have not done it again yet because having to start a new account with these places after I took it over, finally got that resolved, and just hadn't ordered the product for it yet. But that's all we were waiting on, was being able to order the product so we can get it in there so we can start running live games again with people who want to come in and actually play and have some fun playing the game and not be overly competitive like we're trying to win $10,000. I mean, you'll get better where you can, but we ain't doing that here. That's not what it is.
All right. Well, well, those of you who may not know, like Artisan said, he has a show he does Sunday mornings. I think it's 11 a.m. Pacific every week, where we get to talk about all of geekdom, especially as it relates to Black folk. So I'm a regular over there because I love the show, and some of the brothers in the comments are regulars as well. And
cloud sit. So you be trying to cloud sit.
Hey man. Well, here's the thing. I gotta, whenever I have Artisan, even for a few minutes, I gotta go there. Because I don't have too many people to talk to about this stuff, and I don't run across a whole lot of people that know a lot more about it than I do. So, it's definitely a resource. And one of the things I definitely wanted to chop up with you about today was we got a couple things. We got Top Gun.
Yes, we do.
We got Obi Wan. We never even finished up. We never even did Moon Knight, for that matter.
Yeah, we didn't. That was the third one that we were behind on.
Yeah, man.
The third one we were behind on.
Yeah, man. So I want to give people an opportunity, if they haven't been checking the Artisan MC channel. We got to get into this. So, I leave it up to you, dealer's choice, whichever you want to start on. But I need to hear your thoughts on these. And if you haven't checked it out, Artisan's done reviews of each of these on his channel. So I hope you guys check that out directly. But I'm gonna be a little spoiled here since I have him here and take advantage of that. Go ahead and dealer's choice. You decide which one you feel like talking about, and let's get into it.
All right. Maybe we let the chat decide. Do you want your irritation first? You want the bad news first, or you want the fun stuff first? Because I can get into Moon Knight and have a good time with that, but if we end out with Obi Wan Kenobi, it's going. I don't know. Maybe we need to do that sandwich method on that. So let's start with Moon Knight. We'll do Moon Knight and throw that Obi Wan in between, and then we can finish out with Top Gun. So at least I feel good at the end of it.
All right. So go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Moon Knight show end up being a really good show to me. And mind you, a lot of this stuff is just my opinion. It's not I heard somebody else say the shit and I repeated it. It's my opinion. I'm watching it. I'm looking at it for me. I'm not looking at it for anybody else. And my opinion is my own. I really liked the show. I really liked Oscar Isaac coming back to a geek franchise and having a good experience on a geek franchise. From everything that I've seen it in around the space, everybody really liked Moon Knight. There were some cringe moments in Moon Knight, but it happens nowadays. But predominantly, people really enjoyed it. So for me, that's good because Oscar Isaac had a rough ride with geekdom. I'm just Star Wars. He ain't coming back. He's not coming back. X-Men franchise, Age of Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he hasn't had a good time with geekdom. So it was good to me that he got on this show because he did a phenomenal job acting on the show. He even executive produced it. He did an awesome job playing that character.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go deeper into seeing how good of a job he did on the show, watch that, episode 7? And then go on Disney Plus and watch the assembled Moon Knight behind the scenes thing. That dude did a phenomenal job acting. Go ahead.
No, I'll put it to you this way. The split personality thing he did a phenomenal job. The only person I've seen probably do better is probably James McAvoy in Glass.
Yes.
When he would switch personalities mid-scene, I had to give it to James. But short of that, Oscar did a good job as far as that's concerned.
Oscar actually killed it in episode 7, where you actually see there's no camera cut or anything like that. You see him go in between those two characters in one moment. One character is breaking down, crying, and the next one comes up, and you see it on his face. His whole demeanor changed. It's not just that he stopped crying, mannerisms, little idiosyncrasies that he does. All of that changed in that moment. I'm like, wow, this is amazing that he could actually pull that off.
Yeah.
In that scene, right in camera. I'm like, holy shit, this dude is awesome. But I thought he would do a good job in the show anyway. I didn't think it would be that damn good. I didn't.
No,
that actually pulled the show along outside of the issue I was having with the character of Layla in that. Too much crush.
Let's do it.
Too much crushing and propping her up. And this is why me and Dr. T needed to talk about this, because
let's do it. I have a tendency, I'll be watching something, it could be 2 a.m, and I'll shoot him a text and be like, God damn it, Artisan, they went there. And he'll just laugh. I don't even have to tell him what I'm talking about. He knows what I'm talking about.
I know.
We watching it. And so, first and foremost, I was never a regular Moon Knight reader. I would read him occasionally. I liked the character. I didn't mind that they switched him from, white to it's a little unclear what he's supposed to be, but he ain't white. So I didn't mind that. Whatever. But the character, what's her name?
Layla.
Layla. That was getting on my nerves. And I'll tell you the reason it was getting on my nerves is they started her out. She was like this kind of Indiana Jones, archaeologist / swashbuckler kind of thing. She was stealing, artifacts back and whatnot. And that was all well and good.
Yeah, okay.
That was fine, But the first time, I think I'm getting an echo. I don't know where it's coming from.
Might be me.
Okay. So the first time I saw her beat up a brother who was security, tall, fit, strong security, and she came through as an archaeologist, and she is whooping his ass, and I'm just like, oh, God, here we go again. It took me back to what is it? Iron Fist. What's it? what's homegirl's name? She's a nurse.
You know, yeah, you know who you're talking about. Rosario Dawson's character in
Rosario. Now I dig Rosario. I dig Rosario, but that role pissed me off because she was a nurse and she was beating up SWAT agents as a nurse. And I'm like,
she had some training.
Come
Colleen Wing got with her.
Yeah. She had a week's worth of karate training, kung fu training, and she was taking down SWAT, SWAT coming in through. I was just like, all right, that scene with Leia beating people up took me right back to that. And I was just like, Jesus.
Yeah, thank you. He said it in the chat, Claire. Thank you. I always forget her name for some reason. I don't see her as a Claire. Claire Temple, the night nurse.
The night nurse, right.
Yeah,
that's what it took me back to. So, so this archaeologist is just beating up security guards and killing brothers. And it was just like, come on, man, really?
Nah, but I told when I saw that episode, because I watched the episodes early, right? I stay up late and I watch the episodes. And so I saw the episode and I'm sitting here making my mental notes on the episode and I'm noticing, oh, Dr. T, I have a problem with this. I just know, oh, you're not going to like this. I got to wait to hear what we say about this shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because at one point she's fighting this tall brother that she knew. The dude is like 6 feet tall, right? Her little 100-pound ass. And she takes him down by jumping and throwing 2 knees into his chest. I'm like, she should have bounced off of him like a little kid. Like, what are you doing? And killed him. I'm like,
right.
What?
Right. But then it got worse, though. It got worse because then Khonshu drops this little statement about how she should have been, the fist of Khonshu. And I was just like, look, it's one thing if she has her own book, there's a legacy of the character, maybe I could buy it, but I'm hard on that anyway. Even the current Daredevil line where they have what's her name? She took over as Daredevil for a while. Elektra, and Elektra's a bad character. She's got her own history and all of that. I still wasn't a fan of her taking over for Daredevil. Keep her ass as Elektra. I don't have, give her a little book, but
most people weren't for it because she took over for Daredevil, but then she started wearing the Daredevil costume, and it's kind of a downgrade for Elektra because Elektra is known. She is a known character. She wasn't like she was some new character jumping in, hiding her identity, playing Daredevil. We know who she is.
I will say the design of her suit was dope, but she didn't have to be Daredevil. Just give her a new suit and let her be Elektra, Right. But I had the same kind of feeling here because Khonshu was talking about Layla being his fist, and I'm just like, again, taking it back to that Daredevil movie, live action movie we got back in the day. There was a point where, with Ben Affleck, Elektra beats him up. She beats him in their little contest, and this used to happen a lot in movies at that time. And it was almost kind of like, well, why are we watching a Daredevil movie if she's whooping his ass? Just make an Elektra movie, which they eventually did, and it was fairly whack. But but they always had to beat up men, and that's something we still see. Hell, even in the Wonder Woman movie, which I thought was done well, they added to it. Of course, Wonder Woman has to beat up all the dudes, but then at the end, the female villain just gets to walk away, and that happened in both Wonder Womans. As a matter of fact, the female villains they don't have to pay for any consequences. There's no accountability. They just get to go home. But that said, as far as Layla, having her kill a brother and then escalate that with her maybe being the fist of Khonshu, that shit just gets exhausting. Okay, so let me see. So he's selling. So that's one of the things that bothered me about Moon Knight. The other thing that bothered me was looking at the various, Egyptian gods, and you see them show up with their avatars. And one of the things that bothered me as far as that is, I think one of the characters was black, but there's a those of you who've studied this stuff for years, I don't got to tell you about Egypt and its place in African history. And for these kind of television shows, that stuff just gets washed under the table. So there's almost this kind of portrayal like black folk don't have nothing to do with Egypt, with North Africa. And
Yeah, never did. Yeah, we never had anything to do with Egypt, right? It's not a part of Africa. It's just its own island somewhere.
now, as a sci-fi head, I wanted to see the other Egyptian gods in their full forms. I wanted to hear about why some of the Egyptian gods were locked into those little statues. I wanted to hear that history. I wanted to find out what happened. But then even the avatars, I was like, we can't get no black avatars for any of these
No,
guys.
I went off with that because when they got to that point in Moon Knight, if you guys didn't see the show, spoiler, you should saw it, go back and watch it. But it comes to a scene where they're inside the Great Pyramid and all the avatars of the Egyptian gods are showing up.
Right.
And I'm watching them show up, and it's a lot of women, one black woman, and then once Osiris shows up, it's some balding European dude. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. We can't get one black man? Like, not a one? Even Osiris got to be a white dude? I was really upset because I was like, dude, this is like gods of Egypt all over again. I'm like, no black male representation anywhere in here, right?
Right.
And then even the one black woman, she wasn't Boss. They didn't put Boss in there. I was like, so what are we getting again? Like, why does this matter?
But it's a two-part problem because when you lock in the Black Panther and you connect it with this, you see this kind of devaluing and diminishing of the black male image, whether it has to do with humans or gods, right? You don't see any black male gods, for one.
No.
And the closest thing you get to that is the Panther, who is the avatar of Bast. And most of the movie, they really were, kind of starting to replace him with his sister. I mean, we've talked about this for years in this space. This was the first live action opportunity to see the Black Panther, who's supposed to be one of the top 10 most brilliant men in the Marvel universe, brilliant people. And this was an opportunity for young black boys to see black male brilliance. That's one of the reasons you have such a legacy of black male comic book creators and artists and writers who fought for there to be a presence for black males to look up to. I was one of those kids. I loved reading the Black Panther. He was brilliant. He would outsmart Reed Richards. He would outsmart Tony Stark. It was brilliant. It was great to see. But then by the time you get to his first live action adaptation, his sister has all the brilliance. And I keep telling people that's like making a Superman movie for the very first time in history. The very first time you get a live action Superman and Lois Lane has all the super strength in the flight.
Well, that's kind of I won't jump the shark with Obi Wan, but that's
we're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. It's a good time. We're gonna get there.
Yeah. So and this is one of the things we do in these conversations. We really chronicle, as well as discuss it in general. We chronicle the treatment of the black male image because there's a point where people were saying to me with the Black Panther, "Oh, you're being too sensitive. Oh, you're just not paying attention." I'm like, I'm a 40-year comic book reader. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But after you get a few more of these different presentations, these different films and shows in place, I'm just looking at you like, you seeing it yet?
Yeah. Have you seen it yet? Well, that's where I got to the point, Dr. T, where it's like you can't get away from it. It's here. It's not coming. It's here, and you're gonna keep seeing it. And outside of having more black creators and writers in this genre, actually writing material, actually working on these books and actually putting it out there, not gonna change this shit at all. So you're gonna keep getting the same goofy shit. Like my biggest problem with Layla is the character didn't even exist. They made her up. So that means everything about her was made up. And if you watch the behind the scenes part, you find out who made it up. It wasn't the screenwriter, it was the screenwriter and his wife. His wife put that in there. Then her and the actress created the rest of the character. I'm like, oh my fucking God, dude. So y'all just throwing stuff in there to make her something. Like, oh my God.
Oh, wait a minute. So wait a minute. You're gonna throw away 30 years of comic book lore for some shit you made up on the set.
That's shit you made up in a screenplay to give this character some shine. It could be a good opportunity for representation for such and such. Could have been a good opportunity to represent some black males too, because if you guys don't think about it, Khonshu is depicted as a guy's voice, right? It's a guy.
Right.
He's the only god that you can't see his face. His face is all decrepit and withered, but that makes him a man, doesn't it? It makes Khonshu a man. Everybody else, even the Crocodile God, she came back. She got her full features and everything. Even got long locks. But she ain't decrepit. They always depict Khonshu as being wrong and crazy and all the rest of this stuff, and he don't care about people and all the rest of that. And I'm sitting here thinking, but that's still a dude.
Right.
Khonshu must be the only black dude. Must be
With
the only
no face.
with no face, right?
There's a fear of black male intelligence. There's a fear of black male empowered black men. There's a fear of our intensity, and it's usually in spaces that aren't as easily controlled that you see black men shine. Like if you're talking about athletics, things of that nature, you can't deny the history of black male strength, of capability. I don't care if you talk about anything from track and field to football, basketball, whatever. And those spaces, believe it or not, had an impact on comics, right? The reason you could actually have black male superheroes be believable is because if you watch, I grew up in the 70s and in the 80s. I was born in the 70s. So I grew up watching Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? I grew up watching Mike Tyson. You couldn't say black men were Mary Sues in the comic books because in real life, black men were kicking people's asses. I don't care. You can go back to Jesse Owens, right? Black men demonstrated their prowess in multiple areas. And and that took place intellectually too. It took place in the academy, from the Du Boises on down. So black men had to prove themselves in society, in war. BGS always talks about World War II. Hell, we can go back to the Civil War, but black men demonstrated their capacities on the battlefield, on the sports athletic field. They demonstrated their capacity across the board, which was why when black men started to push away from just being sidekicks and demanding for better representation in comics, it was based on a believable paradigm because black men had demonstrated their capabilities in society. Now, one of the things you see in the last, 15 odd years is this kind of shoehorning of women and girls because they're trying to open it up to a new market. We know 70 to 80% of consumer good purchases are initiated by women. So that said, they're trying to open up to that market by Mary suing characters and hopefully tapping into it. And the irony is most of that shit doesn't work.
No.
And instead of doubling down on this legacy of the comics they have, they keep doubling down on a strategy that doesn't work. So that's one of the things that keeps getting me a little incensed. It doesn't work, and yet, black male, especially boys, end up taking the brunt of it. Right? There was a scholarship program that they developed after the first Black Panther movie dropped, and they didn't award it to any black males. They awarded it to a couple of girls. And then they had a couple of the actresses from the film come give the award, but it was such a slap in the face because, again, you have decades of black male comic book writers and artists behind the scene fighting for black male representation, for black boys, especially when you talk about where we are in K through 12, where we are in STEM fields, and the way that Panther is one of the characters alongside others who were designed to inspire that. You can look at Steel from DC Comics. He's a scientist as well. These were comics where brothers were actually behind the scenes fighting to make sure that these images could be inspirational to black boys. And then by the time they get some serious shine on the live screen, they're gone. All of that positive capability is gone.
Well, that's the part that usually messes me up. Like I mentioned, Gods of Egypt. If you watch Gods of Egypt, visually it looks really cool. Special effects on it is really cool, but you have to understand it's a bunch of European actors playing gods in Egypt, right?
Exactly.
Except for one.
Yeah.
One of them is Chadwick Boseman. He's playing Hathor, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. He's playing Hathor. But the way they have him playing Hathor is kind of aloof and effeminate. And that gets into that same thing. Is like you only comfortable with trying to make black men effeminate or brutes that are being killed. Because I don't know if y'all been paying attention in the MCU lately. It's open season on killing black dudes. White women can kill black dudes with no problem. It's not even, the camera will linger on it so you know that white women is killing black dudes. I mean, we talk about Loki, but what was Loki? Loki was another Mary Sue Sylvie character who was also made up, killing at the end of time and everything else, the one black dude in charge of everything. just running them straight through,
Mm-hmm.
right? No cut, no nothing like that. Nope, we killed him. Now I don't see that same treatment being given to everybody else. I don't see characters put in those positions like this is going to be the main character that we have to defeat, and it's always somebody else. I don't see that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like they really try to linger on that idea in this and put it in your subconscious that you are going down.
Mm-hmm.
You are not to be feared. You are to be destroyed or killed at any moment. And anybody can do it. Even a 90-pound weakling in Moon Knight who fought off a whole goddamn mummy,
Mm-hmm.
she can do it too.
Right.
Any female can. Any female can beat a big black man. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Shout out
That
to
was in case you wouldn't have Karens.
Shout out to Darnell Smith with the message about the St. Kevin comic. If that's something, but see, that's the thing. If that's something you want to see created, how useful is it to have a shop that caters to the Manosphere that would be willing to put it on its shelves, willing to sell it and send it out? I don't care if you're buying it from Australia, from Ghana, or from New York, or or walking in off the street right there in El Cerritos. Right, this is the kind of place we need to go to have that. Right, how many institutions does the Manosphere have access to, where we can actually have our ideas supported? Y'all tell me, right? But so
I'd like to know. Like I cruise these YouTube streets a lot, and as far as I know, I'm probably one of the only geeks on YouTube who talks about comics and actually has a shop.
Yeah,
a lot of them are affiliated with somebody or know somebody in the industry, like a writer or artist or something like that. But they don't have shops. I only know of one of them who actually has his own comic book.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. So it, especially not if you're black.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a rare thing. It's a rare thing. And I didn't do it for that reason. I did it just because I love the place and I don't want to see it go away.
Well, and that's why I want people to consider membership as well. I mean, you can go on Patreon and support the stores, support the shop. And there are tiers of support where you can become a monthly, supporter, or a monthly patron to the store, so we can build it up. So I hope you guys take advantage of it. I know I am. I'm going to be shooting the money. Some months I'll buy books. There's some months that I will let him know in advance. I won't. The money is to help the shop, because I want this space available so that I can see the kind of stuff I want to see. Because when it comes to black male media, I mean, look, man, I've been saying this for years. YouTube has been, a very useful space. But if YouTube changes its mind tomorrow, what exactly do the majority of brothers on here, where do they go? What happens? I mean, YouTube could literally change and shift the whole discussion going on as far as the Manosphere with a shift in policy.
Yeah, or bury it.
Yeah.
But not even a flick of the switch, just a couple of keystrokes.
Exactly. So that's one of the reasons
Pretty good. Yourself, how are you? All right.
I want us to take the opportunity to build up, whatever mechanisms we can to support one another, but also so that we can get our ideas out and not have to solely rely on impersonal relationships with large institutions that through the stroke of a pen can change everything. Right. We got to do both. We got to walk and chew at the same time. And while we got this shine on us, let's use it to build some other things and go from there. Anything else you want to drop about Moon Knight?
Moon Knight. I like the ending, how they finally revealed Jake Lockley at the end, which was cool. And you get to see Oscar Isaac actually using a third accent, which is kind of his own accent. Because if you didn't know, Oscar Isaac is actually Latino. He's not a Caucasian dude at all. But I like that, and like seeing that there is more to him. There is more to this story, and that some of that I was right on. Like the Lockley was the one out there killing folks. Wasn't necessarily Mark. It was Lockley was out there getting it in for content.
I told you it was Lockley, because folks were showing up dead, and even Mark was like, "I ain't do that."
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, it's a third persona." I wasn't gonna name it just in case, because they made up Lila. Maybe they left out Jake. So I wasn't gonna name it, but that's why I just kept calling it the third persona. There
Well,
is a third persona.
but
And
correct me
apparently
if
now we know a lot about Jake. Jake liked to date. Jake
right.
liked women.
Well, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I knew him to be a cab driver. I didn't know him to be a stone cold killer. So
No, that's where they flipped the character up a little bit.
yeah.
If you watch that behind the scenes thing, which is why I watch a lot of behind the scenes footage stuff when they're just doing a little documentary or a little clip, 30-minute clip about what's going on behind the scenes, because you always get to hear from the producers, the writers, the actors, of what they were thinking about, what the reasons were why they did certain things in the show, right?
Mhm.
And it was, in some senses, confirmation for me that, okay, what I was seeing as the show was going on, these two producers who wrote it, that was what they were trying to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. So it lets me know, okay, we're on parallel right now with what you were putting out. I got it the same way. Cool. But one of the other things was you find out how much some of these people actually know about this character, or how little they know about the character, and
Mhm.
where they take license and where they don't. The actual screenwriter, he didn't know that much about Moon Knight at all,
Right.
but he had all of this convoluted stuff to pull from the last 30 or so years of his
Right.
character being around, more than that, really. So he just pulled what he thought was the essential parts into that character and then made some changes. This is where I get into the fact that when a character jumps media,
Mhm.
right? If you go from a
Mhm.
comic book to live action, you got to give them a little room for some allowances to change some things to make it work. The character wouldn't have worked if it stuck strictly to his original origin. It wouldn't have worked at all.
Mm.
But the way they pulled certain things in worked a lot better for a live action television show. It made it more intriguing for you to watch this character go through it. Not revealing every persona off the bat work, giving you 2 episodes of Steven, giving you a couple episodes of Mark, and
Mhm.
then getting to the end where you get that symbiosis between the two of them working together was cool.
Right.
Then you also get, yeah, but there's still one you forgot about.
Right.
you
No,
know,
I thought it was brilliant the way they had, Mark and Steven figure out how to work together. It was brilliant the way they started us with Steven and they gave us the impression that he was
Mhm.
the main personality. And then
Right.
to watch Steven discover that he wasn't the main personality
Mhm.
was kind of deep. Even
Yeah.
Steven had to grapple with that. And then seeing the first time he manifested in the midst of abuse,
Mhm.
that was deep. That
Yeah,
was deep.
that was a deep one for that show. I keep pointing this out to people. I'm like, I can't think of where I've seen it on a show where they really got into, outside of Stephen King, I would say,
Right.
but leading into the mother's abuse is the reason this boy is broken.
Yeah.
She is the reason he has a split personality. She
Yeah.
calls that
Yeah.
because it always comes from somewhere. They showed it to you. I mean, they didn't show you her beating the hell out of the boy, but you heard it. You
Mhm.
understand the situation of what was going on. She was getting the hell kicked out of her, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's any different for any black boy. Just saying,
Right. That's
ain't
real.
been any different for us. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought that was a really big moment in that show, that they actually went there and showed as much as that as they did. They didn't say that, oh, it was the father, that he was just a terrible father. They didn't follow
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
trope.
I thought
They
they
put
were
it on the
going to
mom.
go there. Yeah.
Yeah, they put it on the mom. And the only thing I got out of it was that people kept trying to find a way to blame it on the dad still. Like, oh, he was ineffective. He was ineffective. He just let her have her way. It's like, I don't know. I live in a real world. A lot of dudes let a lot of women have their way. So I
Well,
don't know.
she was mentally ill, and
She was mentally ill.
if you've ever been in a marriage or a deep relationship and had kids with someone who's mentally ill, anything you do to her affects the kids, and
Mhm.
so there's I would admit the father wasn't the strongest man in the world, but he was also under a lot of duress.
Yeah.
But one of the other things I thought was brilliant when you think about it is Steven was talking to his mother from the first episode,
Yeah.
and she had passed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. She had been gone.
So he was
That-
imagining talking to her on a daily basis.
Right. Which is something that's what gives that show more replayability, because once you watch it one time through and get to the end,
Mhm.
you will go back and try to pick out all those moments. Like outside of Jake Lockley going back and figuring out, okay, that was somebody else. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
All those little things that Stephen was doing there was a reason for it.
Right.
You'll figure it out at the end. You'll figure it out and you'll go back and watch. It's like, oh, dude, he's really messed up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not necessarily his fault. He's just living with the situation that he has actually been put in. So it was interesting. But yeah.
I will say too, you know, you brought up Khonshu a while back and his voice and how he might have been, in some respects, a black male god. You know, then you got to deal with the way race is depicted with voice, and you know, you definitely could have used the brother to play Khonshu. You could have. But the other one that got me was Taweret. I may not be.
Oh yeah. I actually that behind the scenes actually clued us in on something, right?
Yeah.
And I told Malika about this and sent him a picture. Watching the behind the scenes footage, you find out who the actress was who was playing Taweret. It's not a white chick at all.
No,
she's an Egyptian woman.
Right.
Like she's mixed, like Egyptian and Caucasian or whatever.
Yeah.
So she's doing that white girl voice, but she is nice looking. Well, like, dude, you did her a disservice making her look like a hippo. Like,
well, but
you know, just been on screen.
Yeah, you're right. She was fine. But the thing that bothered me is when I heard her, is just like you thought. It's just like you said. I thought it was a British white chick, and not just an everyday chick, but like
have a good one,
like a kind of, I don't know, kind of ditzy one at that. And I'm like, this is an Egyptian goddess that's supposed to be immortal, you know. She sounds like a ditzy British white chick. I'm like,
she should have a little bit of a better handle on things, don't she?
Exactly.
Like, oh, let me get this together. Yeah, it was like, okay, what the hell is this?
No,
yeah, it was bothering me too. It bothered me a bit too. The CG on the hippo was cool, but I'm like, why does she sound so stupid? But
she sounds stupid. She sounds unsure, and this is an immortal, so she should be a lot more self-assured about what she's doing. But then the whole spin where she has her own avatar as a hero, and I was just like, you know, I get that they got to have some new creative license, but the Mary Sue dynamic of it just really gets on my nerves. It does.
Yeah,
we try to make books out of some of this stuff, and it just keeps flopping and flopping and flopping. And they want to make the argument that, you know, comics are for everybody, and I get that you want to make that argument. But here's the thing: some genres are, you know, they tie to a very particular demographic. Look, I teach Africana Studies. At the end of the day, when you look at all the campuses across the world that have an Africana Studies program, the majority of the students are going to be Black. If you look at women's studies across the world, wherever you find women's studies, the majority are going to be women. I mean, it is what it is. There are whole genres. And when it comes to comic books, when it comes to action figures, they always tilted male. And when I was growing up, that was the dynamic. Dolls tilted female, action figures tilted male. It is what it is. And they're trying to disrupt that, but they're really only trying to disrupt it with male entities.
Yeah.
They're still cool with Barbie only appealing to girls. They're still cool with all those girl enterprises still appealing to girls, but they want to disrupt the gender dynamic of the male enterprises, you know, to democratize and, you know,
diversify. That's not diversity, because it's only. I pointed this out with the MCU after this last Marvel show, right? It's like after Doctor Strange, and that you have to actually look at how many new characters they're introducing, and then do the count. How many of them are female? How many of them are male? And when you do that, it's not diversity. I don't care what background they're coming from. Gender-wise, all you're doing is introducing female characters.
Right.
That's it. You're not introducing any new male characters. You're just actually killing off a lot of, or getting rid of a lot of male characters to bring in a lot of female characters to take their place. So that's not diversity in any sense of the word.
Right.
You're just pushing your agenda. That's what it is. And I may not have a problem with some of the characters. This Lila one I have a problem with because it's a made-up character, and it's Mary Sueism at its worst.
Well,
and now they turned her into an avatar, so now I got to see her in something else again. Like, oh my fucking god, dude! And now it won't go away.
see, no one is feeling me. No one said Dennis Haysbert should have been the voice of Khonshu. You know,
he should have. I like F. Murray Abram, but I hated his voice as soon as I heard it. It's like, no, that's not Khonshu. Dennis Haysbert would have been, he would have did it. He
No,
would have been.
I like F. Murray Abraham too. Right? You know, you got him. You got there's all kind of brothers that have powerful voices. My favorite is always going to be the brother who played Spawn in the animated
Keith
series.
David.
Keith David, man, that's always going to be my favorite because
that Grizzle, that Goliath, and
his Spawn was
Spawn,
the coldest. Oof.
Navy commercials and stuff. Like, yeah, he got that voice. He got the
Yes, he
voice.
does. Yes, he
He got
does.
the
So
voice.
Keith David as Khonshu would have been ridiculous.
Yeah, that I'd have loved the hell out of that.
Oh,
I'd love the hell out of that.
You know,
I guess they were going for that British bent.
Yeah. You know, so really the only time you see that strong black male presence is Samuel Jackson, and that in the Marvel universe, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that they liked Samuel as an actor, but they're not really trying to have too many strong brothers in there. So,
Rob Matthews got a point. We need somebody to get on the voiceover of episode 1 of Moon Knight, replaced with Dr. Tia-san for Khonshu.
Oh God. Yeah.
Give it back, worm.
Man, I would be trying to mimic Keith David. That's why you got to get Keith, man.
Yeah, you got to get Keith for it.
But let's see. So as far as that, I didn't really dig the whole ditzy British white woman for this Egyptian goddess thing either.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of gods I wanted to see represented that I didn't get to, and a lot of that is because we get very sparse opportunity, very few opportunities to see any aspect of Black history represented, whether it's the African gods, the Egyptian one. We get very few opportunities on the big screen or even on the little one as far as Disney Plus is concerned. And so whenever those opportunities are missed, I'm always going to be irritated by it. But let's talk a little bit about because I've been wanting to hear this from you directly.
Okay.
Your thoughts on Top Gun.
Okay, Top Gun. You didn't want to go with the bullshit in the middle, huh? Okay.
Well, you know what? We can do that. We can do that. We can go with the bullshit.
Because I thought we had a nice dovetail into talking about Obi Wan and the backlash that they getting from this show about that Reva chick. It's like, but it's a good dovetail because we talk about how they created this character with Layla in the MCU, right? And now she's there, and she had to, constantly keep upstaging and Mary suing her in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then get into Obi-Wan, another franchise, Star Wars universe, still owned by Disney.
Right.
And you're seeing the same stuff that in 2 episodes, it seems like this whole show was going to pivot from being about Obi-Wan at all. It's going to be about young Princess Leia and Riva, the old Jedi Padawan, who is now Inquisitor. It's like, everybody is hating this fucking character. I don't hate the actors, but I'll just make that point clear. I don't hate the actors unless they come out and say something goofy. Like Brie Larson, she said enough goofy stuff that I don't have to like her at all and the character.
I don't.
You double did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The woman playing Layla, I don't have to dislike that actress. I dislike the character. They need to write it better or do something else with it.
Aside from the fighting, I like the character just as an architect doing her thing, trying to restore certain things and bring them back to museums. I like the character up to a point. When she started killing grown men and turned into a superhero, I was done. But up to that point, even as Mark's wife, I dug her. So I'm feeling good.
Yeah, I was fine with her being Mark's wife and whatnot, but getting that behind the scenes stuff, and she's talking about that she really wanted that character to be something, not just have her purpose be a man or some stuff. I was like, oh my God, why'd you get married?
Why'd you get married?
Why did you get married? Oh my God. I want her to have a purpose other than just a male, just to be in service to a male. Like, you should have got your own show then, obviously. But that wasn't happening, right? So you get into the Obi-Wan, it's kind of the same thing. Whereas I like the Obi-Wan show, I like Ewan McGregor being there, I like Jimmy Smits being there. I don't even mind really seeing, young Princess Leia. It's like something I never thought about before. Seeing is okay, it's fun for an episode. But my biggest thing with the Riva character is she's trying to be too masculine. Okay. They force her to be really too masculine. Mm-hmm. She's approaching people like a dude, like a pissed off dude that you wouldn't even like. As a guy, you wouldn't like him. And that's how they have her approaching. And for me, I'm like, That's a real bad look for sisters. I mean, it's a real bad look.
You going around cutting off white women's hands and shit.
Just for the hell of it. Like, really? Okay. I mean, she was talking, but
She's
okay.
being a white woman, you know. That's all
she was being a white woman, but okay, that's a different look for y'all. I don't know if you're happy with that because look, if black women usually talk about how they're depicted in media and like black men are doing it, black men ain't doing this. Ain't no black men decided on none of this. None of it. So whatever you don't like ain't got nothing to be thrown at black men's feet. I'm a black man. I'm watching. I don't like it. It make me hate the character.
Yeah,
not because she's black, because she sucks. Right? So I'm like, this is not going well in 2 episodes. In 2 episodes,
it was kind of like Captain Marvel to me. It was like, you know, I really didn't like her off the first jump. Damn near off the commercial had I seen her in it, but yeah, I wasn't feeling the character at all.
No,
I like them showing a broken Obi Wan because he would be. You know, you know, to go from high order Jedi to cutting meat in the middle of a desert, you're gonna be broken. You're gonna be broken. You know,
from General Kenobi to number 45 on the line. My God, hey, boy, took him to a day labor status. Like, Jesus, he ain't got a name.
He ain't got a name. And then to be approached by a Jedi who remembers him and is saying, you know, what's the deal? Like, you know, that was hard. You know, that was hard. So what they're doing with his character as far as his brokenness, I think is interesting. But this whole thing with Reva or whatever, I really don't like when they shoehorn characters in that really don't have a place in this. And then they Mary Sue her. I mean, she's killing Grand Inquisitors. Come on, man. Really?
She is another made up character. She's just like Layla, in the same mode as Layla, a character totally created for this show. And what it seems like they want to try to get some center from the show around her. And I'm like, why am I watching this on an Obi Wan show? Because I'm telling you right now, I didn't show up to see any other character development. I showed up for Obi Wan's character development. That's primary. How you doing, sir?
Okay. But I'll say this. Here's the biggest thing as far as I'm concerned. You don't need to create a villain in Obi-Wan. You got one of the top villains in sci-fi history, probably in media history. You got one of the top villains ever in this series. You don't need to shoehorn in someone you just created.
No, you don't need to shoehorn in their story.
And I know probably a little bit of why is they've gotten complaints for decades about how there are no black women in the Star Wars universe. I get it. I don't mind the fact that they made her a villain because for the longest, you know, you didn't see a whole lot of female villains, which kind of supported this narrative that women were inherently good and pure and men were inherently bad. You saw that in the last Star Wars trilogy, where when you get down to the last episode of the movie series, you know, everybody, you know, on the rebel side were pretty much women. They were all LGBT and women were everybody in the order were all, you know, pretty much men. Even the women were masculine. And so you had this split, you know, where men are evil and women are inherently good. So I don't even mind her being a villain. What I mind is I don't need her to be the primary antagonist when you got Darth Vader. I'm like, you don't really need to shoehorn anyone else. And this should be Vader at his most powerfully villainous, right? These are the mystery years, you know, that we've never got to see before the rise of Luke. So we should be seeing Vader. I mean, the way they talked about him from episode 1, we need to be seeing all of that shit happening now. I don't care to see a shoehorned in, you know, character running around killing Grand Inquisitors. I really don't.
No, I don't need to see that either. And I talked about this on my show on Sundays that I'm really getting annoyed with them in Star Wars. While I like John and Dave working on this stuff, I don't like all the backfilling that's constantly going on with this stuff. It's like, if you're going to tell me a new story, tell me a new story. But I can't keep having you go back and keep messing up timelines and rewriting stuff just to keep making new characters and throwing other stuff in there. It's like it's not even going to be that interesting to me. One second.
Right. So that it's one of the things that bothers me. I think there's a missed opportunity here to really take advantage of what Vader could be doing, and I'm sure they're going to get there. I mean, obviously, these are only the first 2 episodes, and I think they're holding Vader off because they know that's what people want to see. I mean, other than Obi Wan, people want to see Vader. Now, Leia, I didn't know that they were really going to go there, but it makes sense because, again, going back to episode 1, we know that Leia knew Obi-Wan before Luke did. We got that in the very beginning of the movie. So it makes sense that they're going to show us how they met. I didn't really expect to see Leia take up this much room in the early story, especially as a little kid. And I will say, I was annoyed. I can't lie about that. One of the first things I thought of when they first showed Leia, she's climbing up trees and she's running away from, her responsibilities as a princess, and she's a little tomboy. And I remember thinking, they do this, with so many female characters. They, right now they're really deep off into this whole notion that there's no difference between, male, female, girl, boy. But the way they express that is to make the girls more masculine than the boys. The girls are better boys than boys, right?
Yeah,
So I'm watching, huh?
I said, no kidding.
Yeah, I'm talking about Leia, being a little tomboy. She's climbing trees, she's avoiding her responsibilities, and it was so predictable. Like, this is a princess, and I was expecting to see her, being trained in being a princess, and but then at the same time, I know how they write girls. So I was like, watch her be a tomboy. And sure enough, the very first scene, you see her running out there climbing a tree, and I was like, see, predictable. You can't have girls be girls because they have to be boys in order to be whatever.
Yeah, that's why she knew the spaceships and everything else, but she don't know nothing about diplomacy and actually dealing in these parties and stuff that she would actually eventually do. Now that she's going to be a senator at some point in her life. I guess she learned it later on, not when she was 10.
Now, Trell got me laughing in the comments. He said, as a father, I wanted to slap the taste out of Leia.
I've heard that a lot. I haven't dove into it to ask people exactly what scene it was that pissed them off, because her running style pissed me off. I was like, that was a goofy ass scene if I ever seen one at all. But whatever. Yeah. It's a little girl. I guess I can't go in on the little girl, but that was a dumb shot scene. That was dumb as hell.
What pissed me off is how don't nobody on the security side ever know where this child is. They don't know how to keep up with her. They can't catch up to her running. And then the kidnappers come in and she's kind of outsmarting them at every turn. And I'm just like, why don't y'all just make this the goddamn Leia show? Just make it, just forget Obi-Wan. Y'all really trying to do this with her. Why don't you just have her take out Vader? Come on, let's get to it.
Let's just get to the good part. Yeah, that little girl was bothering me. And the one scene when they went to the other planet, and then she started having an issue with Obi-Wan and trying to run off. I'm like, didn't he just rescue you?
Mm-hmm.
He just rescued you.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Look, me, I would have wanted to grab her by the scruff of her neck too. But man, if you don't shut the hell up and get on this ship, I'm getting the hell off this planet. Like, nah, man, I can't take stuff off of little kids like that. No, yeah. You can tell she was spoiled. Belle ain't putting a hand down on Leia. Look, not that or not, you got to instill some discipline, dude.
I'm gonna be
all over the place,
but I'm gonna be petty. One of the scenes that really bothered me was when Jimmy Smith's character, right, the father, he goes to see Obi-Wan. So he finds Obi-Wan, in the desert. He's in his apartment, his little cave, waiting on him, and then he says, "But what about Leia? You have to help Leia." And I was like, "Are you serious? Leia is a princess in a fucking castle with guards. Luke is out here doing farm work. If they wanted to take Luke out, they could shoot him just right, pick him off at 300 yards out there in the middle of planting corn. And you're talking about a princess in a castle." I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, that part bothered me too, because it made it seem like Leia is more important than Luke.
Right.
And like, okay, so it's okay to leave this boy by himself There are no protectors at all. And you guys, you were apt at pointing this out. Leia's in a castle full of guards. Why? How does she even get away?
Right.
And you need Obi-Wan to come get her. You ain't got no guards, no ships. I thought you were like helping lead the rebellion. Y'all ain't got no crew, no guys, no goons,
or some money. Some money to hire some mercenaries. You had to come get Obi-Wan, and he's the only one watching after Luke, whereas she in a whole castle. And you over here talking about what about Leia? Really?
What about her? Thought she was watching her. Shit, get out of my cave. Yeah, that was messed up because they really showed that Obi-Wan is at his low. He's at his low. Everybody giving Obi-Wan shit. Even Owen. Owen Lars was giving him
the business, man. He was giving him the
business. He should have got slapped in the mouth for that, though. He should have got slapped in the mouth. He should have got a Jedi, slap for that, like a force slap. Just like, wow, like what? He should have got it for that one because that was a dirty shot. Like you trained his father. Oh,
you know what I mean?
Trained your father. That's some shit. That was dirty. I wasn't the only one. A lot of Jedi's trained him.
Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he should at least got punched in the stomach. Something.
He handled Reva pretty good. Is it Reva? I don't know how to even say her name, man.
Well, here's how you remember her name, because I heard this of what she's supposed to be. Because they couldn't use a character that they wanted to, they made this character to be Revan. That's why her name is the way it is. She's supposed to be Revan, but they can't use Revan. So they made it Reva. They dropped the N, made it Reva, and made it a black woman. I'm like, that's even worse. You better hope a lot of Star Wars fans find out about that shit. They'll be pissed. The white boys love them some Revan. You can't fuck with Revan.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah. You even taking his name a little bit.
Well, for a good period of time, people were hoping that they were going to actually see a live action Revan, and I think they're still hoping.
They're still hoping.
They're hoping your boy will play the role.
Keanu.
Keanu, yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, he's playing a Sith King, so he can't play Revan now. You got to get somebody else.
So I'm fine with that. Who's he playing?
This next trilogy of movies that they do, which is going to be like Game of Thrones, Star Wars. He's playing the Sith King of Exegol. So that planet that they were on at the end, if you punished yourself and watched The Rise of Skywalker, that place where Palpatine was, that planet Exegol, that throne was not his throne. That was the Sith King of Exegol's throne. Keanu Reeves is playing the Sith King of Exegol. So you're going to get that whole story about these people. And the next trilogy is about all Sith.
Okay. Now look, I'll watch it, but I refuse to acknowledge that the last trilogy happened. It doesn't exist to me. So I don't know what you meant when you were talking about,
It happened, and I'll say it happened for this reason. I'll say it happened for this reason, and you'll agree with this too. You'll agree with this. You'll accept that that it exists, but it just was dog crap. After I say this, Lando was in it, and he didn't die. Lando was in it and he didn't die. Thank you.
On, don't do that.
One legacy lives. Oh my God, the brother escaped.
That wasn't the only stereotype that he refuted. I don't care what nobody say. That was supposed to be his daughter. He was a deadbeat dad, and he found his daughter by accident by the end of that. That's all.
Yeah, no.
They wanted to make him a deadbeat dad. Damn it, that's my theory. I don't care what nobody say. He did his daughter by accident.
Yeah. Let's go find your parents. You are my parent. Like DNA matches. Yeah, no.
No, man.
I saw that too, but I was like, nah, his damn kid.
No,
I'm just saying.
They had too many moments to not either be going after each other or her being his daughter. I was like, nah. But
well, the thing they got for this Obi Wan show later on, they're trying to find a way to make Rey part Kenobi, right? And basically this is the backfilling part. Basically, they're going back in and saying that Rey is part Kenobi, that her mother was Kenobi's daughter or whatever, right? So I'm sitting there thinking of it. So you're making Kenobi like an absentee father?
Yep.
Like he had just went and, pumped and dumped some chick in a galaxy far, far away, and then he just didn't think about the kid. Like, this is a common trope y'all keep trying to throw in there. That's not good. That's not a good idea. It's like he's supposed to be like a monk.
Right.
That's how Jedi's in that generation rolled. They didn't have families and stuff like that. That's why what Anakin was doing was such, a sacrilege, and why he had to keep it so secret. You ain't supposed to have no woman and no kids. But now they're gonna try to make Rey connected to his bloodline by Kenobi having a child, apparently that he hadn't raised and just left out there up to their own devices.
Yeah.
That don't make Obi Wan Kenobi look any better. Like, that's not helping anybody. No, try something else. No, I don't need everybody being a deadbeat dad. Come on, man.
Yeah. I
absentee
wouldn't.
fathers. I shouldn't use that. I hate that term. I should use absentee daddy, absentee father.
Yeah. Well, absentee fathers are white, deadbeat dads are black. So it kind of goes along that line. That's why I was saying Lando was a deadbeat dad.
Touche.
But now, man, going back to Leia, I didn't really like her depiction. I didn't end up liking her as a character. They talked about her dressing down her cousin and kind of tearing them apart verbally. And they kind of suggested she uses the Force to, get to know what people think. That was funny. Don't get me wrong. I laughed at it. It was funny. But I didn't find it an accident that her cousin, the one that needed to be dressed down and embarrassed, was me. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you've been to high school, mean girl culture. It very well could have been a girl.
Yep.
But they make it a point to show girls dominating boys at every turn, women dominating men at every turn. So in that scenario, as soon as I saw his character, I was like, yep, that's who she's going to deal with. Watch. And 5-10 minutes later, she was dressing him down, and I was like, "See, she's a little taller, and then she's got to embarrass him and diss him in front of everybody." And I'm like, these little digs start to add up. It's kind of like what they call it, a death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, that's because it's a self-conscious thing that it's like they can't resist doing it, and that's what makes these characters in the shows, in some senses, suffer, is because you have such a mad on for wanting to do this to guys, to get back some kind of retribution for whatever you actually went through in your life, supposedly,
right,
against guys, that it just drags down the work. That was the problem with all this activism coming into the comic book space and the geek space. You brought all this BS that wasn't even there. Wasn't there, and you drug down every book that you put it into. Every one. Not a one of these books with all this stuff injected to it is successful. It's not. I just had a phone call from one of the customers asking about what's in his safe. Well, he got Son of Kal-El in his safe. Is that book breaking numbers?
Yeah.
No. Who cares about Superman's son being bisexual or whatever the fuck, or just straight up homosexual? That's nothing for anybody. Like, dude, that is too small of a population. It's not making the book any better.
Well, a lot of it has to do with us moving away from writing, storytelling. So if you look at this comment by Our Future MD, right? Our Future says strong female character is not story development. If you take that to what you just said about Kal-El's son, right? Being bisexual is not a freaking story. It's not in and of itself a story. That may be the beginning point, but what's the freaking story? And the story is forgettable.
Yeah. A character with superpowers like Superman who is bisexual is a story for a one-issue independent comic. But it's not a story for a multi-issue major label comic. It's not. Who cares? I mean, the only one out of that whole group that you can say was actually pretty decent was Batwoman in the comic. Okay. That was actually pretty decent because the art was actually pretty good. It was pretty decent because that was just what she was from the time it came up. They didn't have to go and morph some character into world. Now you're on the spectrum and now you're part of the rainbow. No, they didn't do that. It's just what the character was from jump.
Right.
It actually worked a little better. A lot of this other stuff.
Yeah. And you can't help but wonder how long it's going to go for, because this stuff continues to fail and they keep pushing it and keep pushing it. And I told you before, I'm waiting to get the logic, because it wouldn't look, we're in a capitalist system. It would make sense if the sales were going through the roof.
Right.
It would make sense. I'd be like, well, you can like it, you can hate it, you can love it, doesn't matter. If it sells, they're going to make more. Anytime a movie does well, expect a sequel. It is what it is. But when it doesn't sell and it doesn't do well, and they keep going there, I'm like, what's the point? I mean,
So why are we doing this again? Well, my thinking on it was that the point of it was to ruin the franchises. That's what the point of it was. The point of it was to ruin the franchises. That all these characters and these stories and stuff that was really good, they came into the space and figured, these guys like that, let's take it away from them. And I don't care if we ruin it. Do whatever you got to do, but make it fail so they have to accept this. And that's all it is. It's like, look, if you're doing what you want to do with your life, it doesn't matter who agrees or who doesn't. And I don't think you spend a lot of time trying to convince people they need to agree with you.
Yeah.
But if you have a problem with how you live in your life and you don't want to be snapped out of that delusion, you'll constantly focus on everybody else and try to get everybody else on board to support your fucking thing that you're doing. No, you got to accept it. I don't have to accept it because it's not my life. It's yours. You have to accept it.
Right.
Can you do that? Because I'm not running around having banners about what I'm doing, trying to force everybody that they need to accept this is the way that I am. Yeah, it's fine. It's the way you are. Who cares? Nobody. It's what's that line? I think you protest too much. And that's all they do. Every place. You got to accept it because we're so underrepresented. I don't see how. I don't see how.
Well,
it's everywhere. Get woke, go broke. They don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
They weren't making the money anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, by the time you got to the end of Rise of Skywalker, I was like, I think Oscar might have been the last straight white dude in the Rebel Force at that point.
Yeah,
they were talking about him. They were talking about him being in a gay relationship with the brother for the last.
Yeah, they kept trying to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, him and Finn are gay lovers. Man, would you quit? Look, this will dovetail into the Top Gun conversation. I listened to this review of Top Gun, the original Top Gun, and people were talking about how they were just so gay. And I'm like, if that's all you look for, that's all you see, right? The altered eye alters all, right?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Everything is not that. Everything that two males do now has to be viewed in that lens. And all it is a really effective shaming tactic, because whatever is said, if it's said in media and stuff like that enough, you eventually just walk away from it. Like, no, that's not me, especially if that's not you. Like, so it's a really effective shaming tactic to keep males, being apart and not actually working together. To shame them into what they consider is, I don't know, positive male behavior, non-toxic. No.
And that was a trope for Top Gun that goes all the way back to the 80s. One of the tropes was that this was a homoerotic film, and it was really all about gay men. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
For
I
me,
just thought, I thought that narrative was problematic. I'm like, so what are you actually saying? Because these are just competitive people in a military environment where you're getting that competitive male thing, and the only thing that you can think of to slander it is say that, well, every interaction they're just being gay. How does that actually work?
Yeah.
How does that actually work?
I
don't see that.
I sat my son down and because I went to go see it Thursday, and I texted you about it Thursday. I told you I said effects wise it's dope. As long as you don't care about why exactly America's bombing a country, as long as you put that to the side, and they wanted you to, because you got like 2 seconds of explanation as to why they were bombing, and they didn't even tell you what country it
The
was.
country was unnamed. It was an unnamed country, faceless,
Pilots were faceless, no
with
accent. You couldn't hear
no
nothing.
accent. They got gloves on. You can't see. You don't know who the hell they are.
It didn't matter. America.
They might as well yelled Cobra or something like that.
Shut up and take it. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
They bombing
No
somebody.
insignias on that. Somebody else pointed that out in the review, and I was laughing my ass off that they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is the only country that they bomb where you don't know nothing. All the signs are in English. There's no insignias on the planes. You can't tell what country this is. Like, as a story, you want to know, but they playing it real safe. We're not
You
pissing
didn't
off
see
nobody.
one flag nowhere.
No flags, no soldiers, no nothing, no trademark weapons. No.
Wait. You saw them when they were on the hangar looking for another plane, and you saw people running in the smoke, but you couldn't see
Couldn't see
anything.
them. You don't hear them talking or nothing. No, they mentioned that they were soldiers, but you didn't see them.
You didn't see them. And by the
They
time
stayed way away from that, boy. It was
by
not
the time they got in the plane, you didn't see no more soldiers. It was gone.
It was gone. Soldiers was gone. Nobody stopped them. Nobody shot at them. Nope. They wasn't touching it. They wasn't touching it at all.
Touching it at all. Nope. I was
Who
waiting.
were they? Unnamed country, working on some weapons, working on some nuclear stuff. You know how we are about that. So they had to get the bomb. Okay.
Yeah, right. I said y'all smooth did past that one. You know, even from the first scene where they were like, okay, they were asking Tom Cruise to get Maverick. They were saying, well, how do we do this? And he's saying, well, we can come in and we can do this, we can do that. I'm like, y'all didn't even tell him where the country.
Where the hell are you flying to? Huh? We'll figure out it's in the nav computer. Like they'll figure it out. The ship knows where we're going.
I was like, all right, you know, if you can, you know, if you're highly political, of course, anything having to do with imperialism is gonna piss you off. There's no question. This ain't your movie. You know,
they stayed forward.
As long as you could bracket that. You know, one of the things I was drawn to were, you know, the narratives about men. And so what I wanted to take my son to see it, but of course, in order for him to appreciate it, he had to see the first one. So I went to see it Thursday. I said, yep, this is good. I'm gonna bring him. So Thursday, I think it was Thursday night or Friday, we watched the first one. I think it was Friday. We watched the very first one, and he loved it. He loved it. He loved the jets. He loved the fighting. He loved actually seeing a character have to rally after going through a serious heartbreak, having his father die. You know, all of those, you know, and we, you know, I told you guys a couple years ago, for my longtime listeners, my son and I watch movies all the time, and we will stop and have a discussion about anything.
That's how you're supposed to.
Yeah, anything that I think will help him in his growth. You know, we'll have that discussion. Any questions he have, we stop. And so we did that a few times, which was all good, because by the time we got to the theater to see the second one, he was well informed. He didn't miss any gaps in the story, and we could further deal with some of the elements that the film brought out that I thought were pretty interesting. You know, because when you really watch both movies, a lot of it has to do with fathers and sons. The very first movie, Maverick, he flies the way he does because his father died as also an aviator, as a jet fighter. Never told him how. They just let him know that his father messed up in some kind of way. So a lot of his flying is to prove. Okay, yeah. So a lot of his flying has to do with proving something. And then so you kind of he gets to finally find out in the first movie what exactly happened with his father. And he gets some kind of opportunity to, you know, I won't say reconnect, but reconcile his father's memory, because he's actually able to talk to one of his flight instructors who flew with his father. So through that, there's also kind of a surrogate father relationship with him. Right. So in a way, Maverick is channeling his father through the flight instructor, who's the same age, roughly. You know, he and his father fought in Vietnam together, whatever. So you get this father-son dynamic happening with him. But the other father-son dynamic is Goose and his son. And you only get to see the little boy for an instant in the first movie. But there's a father-son kind of, you know, foreshadowing there. So obviously, by the time you get to this one, you get a whole nother father-son dynamic where again you have a character whose father has passed, and he's trying to reconcile that memory through his flight instructor, who is Maverick this time.
Mhm.
And so you have that kind of difference playing out. Go ahead. Anything you want to jump in on?
No, I was going to say that's actually a really good analysis of that. The other thing I put in there is that Maverick is dealing with a lot of PTSD because of that. That you see everywhere he looks in his place is pictures of Goose. Like he put those pictures there on purpose.
Right.
He keeps remembering Goose. It's something that he keeps trying to live with.
Yeah.
And while he keeps the line of "talk to me, Goose," he's still
Yeah.
trying to account for that. He's still trying to make his amends with that. And 30-something years later, it has not gotten much better from him. It's still there with him.
Right.
So trying to surrogate father his son, in a sense, or not his son, but Goose's son,
Mm-hmm.
is to pay that back.
Yes.
And it's something that we've talked about in construction before about why you always work in teams, right? You get hurt, I'm gonna have to take care of your kids. So let's make sure you don't get hurt. You don't die on this damn job.
Right.
So you can actually take care of your kids, because that's something that I would have to pick up.
Now, before we continue into that, I'd like for you to answer this question from Red Planet Photography. He says, do you mail orders for comics? Go ahead and
Yes.
tell us how to order comics.
So if you want to order comics from the store, standupcomics21@gmail.com, one word, lowercase, and give me the list of the books that you are actually looking for. Then you can pay for those said comics. I will email you back with an invoice. Pay for them on Venmo. standupcomics21 on Venmo. And then I will mail them to you. If you want to put, which would be nice, put a little extra on it for the shipping, because I don't know where you are in the world, that would actually be helpful.
Well, would it help for them to send you? I mean, they got to send you their address, right?
Got to send me your address, and that'll come with the invoice. I usually do it in. If you put it in the first email, it's helpful. It makes that whole process go a lot quicker, because all I need is the list of the comics in the email and the address to send them. So then I can look on my side to see if the comics are available and how quickly I can actually get them. I'm ordering from the distributor, so I'm on their time once I put the order there. Once I put the order in, it's probably a week, 2 weeks to get it, and then I'll get it out to you. And you will get the tracking number and everything else like that about the comic, when it's coming, and when your product will show up.
Right. Okay. So getting back to Top Gun.
All right.
So you were talking about the relationship with Goose. Did you want to expound anymore?
Yeah, that whole relationship with Goose is a PTSD moment for Maverick, but it's also him trying to pay it forward with Rooster, trying to parent him, but he got put in a really messed up situation to where he's trying to honor the memory of his dead friend, but also honor the memory of his dead friend's wife as well, who didn't want her son going into the Air Force and being a pilot. And he does that at the detriment of his relationship with that boy that he actually really wants.
Yeah.
And it's like a tough situation all the way around. And seeing what he actually takes on to deal with his problem in that whole thing is what shows what Maverick is made of, outside of just, the whole fighter pilot part of it, but why he pushes himself so hard, being his father, being his friend that he lost, and trying to have that relationship with the son. It's just a lot of different layers to that.
Let me say this real quick. For those of you who are not sure, I have the ticker at the bottom of the screen. The email address is in there. The Cash App, the Venmo is in there. I'm leaving it on for the whole show. So if you have any questions about how to reach out to Stand Up Comics, the information
Thank you.
is right there on the screen. Okay, so
sorry, I had a customer.
Understood. Donnie says, my only gripe with Top Gun, 4 brothers in the movie, and none of them had the aviator call sign Red Tail. Missed opportunity.
You should have been in the writing room. You need to send that to Tom Cruise. Yeah,
That's a
because
good one.
that is
Yeah.
a good one that's missed, because you have Jay Ellis there, and he's what we got. We got Payback.
Mhm.
We got Coyote or whatever his name was.
Coyote. Yeah.
Sundown in the first movie. Yeah, nobody was Red Tail. That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
didn't even think of that. That's a good one. You should get paid for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's a whole legacy of black pilots that, doesn't get recognized anywhere. So yeah, that's a good
Shit.
point.
Well, here's another one though. I don't know if it's a spoiler for anybody,
we
but
did.
none of them die. None of them die.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate that, but none of them die.
I thought Payback or Coyote. I thought, well,
I thought they was going to eat it.
Coyote. Yeah, I thought he was
Like no brothers were harmed in this movie.
right. Right. And I will say this: there's a couple things, especially as it relates to women. First and foremost,
hold on, let me correct Malika. Malika, Phoenix was the Latina.
Yeah,
Phoenix was the Latina.
Well, who did he say she was?
Phoenix was the Latina. Payback was Jay Ellis.
Yeah. But yeah. So first things, you mentioned the sacrifice that Maverick makes for Rooster's mother, right? And I talk about a lot on my channel, male relationship, emotional labor. In other words, I talk about the emotional labor that men provide in relationships with lovers, with parents, with family, and with friends, and even in society, that men do not get credited for. So obvious spoiler, because we've been covering spoilers all day. So if you ain't with it, you're too late. But the reason he doesn't tell Rooster why that he denied him access, why he blocked his paperwork so he could, fly, was because, as Artisan pointed out, Rooster's mother said, please, don't let him do this. And he never tells Rooster that his mother did that to preserve her memory. So even though she's passed away, he's providing this emotional labor for Rooster. It's not for Rooster's mother. He's doing it for Rooster because Rooster's mother's dead. He's saying, and he says this, he says, he's going to hate me for this. Why should he hate his mother? So he's willing to take all of that hate and never explain to Rooster what's going on. He has to earn Rooster's respect in a whole different way to preserve the memory of Rooster's mother in order to do that. And that is a profound act of emotional labor. And the reason I bring that up is this is the kind of shit men do on a regular basis. And they never get credited for it. These sacrifices, because trust me when I tell you, it hurt Maverick's heart for the son of his best friend to not respect him, to not like him at all, to hate his guts. In fact, it hurts his heart because Rooster is the living embodiment of Goof. He's the only thing left from his best friend, and he has to endure this hate, really to do a service to the same guy who hates him. That's what men do all day.
All day.
Proof of that. If you've ever been a stepfather and you've ever had to raise a kid that hates your guts and tells you ain't their dad and you're still there for him, and that's the generation I grew up in, I watched men who raised children that weren't theirs, who sometimes hated their guts and still sacrificed for those kids to do well. That's emotional labor.
Yeah, it is. And you're right, Hasan. It's profound because that's what touched me about that. When it got to that part in the movie and he says why he did it, I couldn't think of any time that I wasn't doing the same thing. I didn't say certain things. And I can remember having conversations with my son specifically and said, there's things that I have to deal with that I will never tell you.
Right.
You will never know.
Right.
And I took those, well, it's your fault that this, that, and the other. And I didn't tell him anything about what was really going on. Exactly. Because I tell my kids a lot, but like I said, it's about 95% or 90, depending. That other part maybe got you looking at me crazy.
Right.
Like, oh, you just be fucking up on stuff. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But if I'm preserving someone else's,
it's just me. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. If I'm preserving someone else's memory or I'm protecting you by how much I share, that is emotional labor. And one of the reasons I created the concept is I want men to understand, but I also want society as a whole to understand. Men do this shit every day. As a matter of fact, I would argue that the emotional labor men perform is what keeps things going. And the moment that men stop performing it, you do not want to live in a society where men have stopped performing emotional labor. You really don't. And people really don't understand that. People don't even if you just take chivalry, if you realize how much chivalry actually allows people to thrive, survive and thrive, you'd be surprised what happens when that chivalry is gone. You don't want to see it. Trust me, I don't want to see it.
No, I would think that you should be happy if you have a society where men will actually carry that and actually be willing to put themselves out there for that, because the other side of that is really dark and really bleak. And I don't see anybody holding pom poms for that shit legitimately. I don't, because if men actually stop caring about a lot of things, you're gonna have a whole hell of a lot of problems.
Oh yeah.
And no strong woman is gonna be able to stop. It's not happening. They're gonna be running and hiding. So yeah, I appreciated that. That was actually really deep in the movie, because what you see is Maverick trying to be a father. He's learning how to be a parent in a sense, because he's failing at it. He's like, the kid is hating my guts. I don't know how to do this. So he's getting some tutelage from the single mama, but she gave him some pointers in a sense. Like, no, you have to do it. So he's getting a second chance to figure out what went wrong with Rooster and how to fix it by actually being the trainer of this team.
Right.
Because in a sense, now he's parenting a whole 12 people, 12 other people, 24 other people.
Well, and
having to work through that.
And I have to credit you, because you were the first one to call out that she had a presence in the first movie.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say where. I want y'all to go check the review by Artisan, but he'll point out to you, her character was in both movies.
Yeah. Because I saw somebody else pointing it out. I said, "Oh, it's a new love interest." It's like, is she?
No,
she's not. Oh, you got to pay attention to dialogue, homie.
but yeah, man. But the other thing is, we got to deal with Iceman.
Yeah,
you got to deal with Iceman. Now, I do like Val Kilmer. Was one of my favorite '80s actors. I love Val Kilmer. He used to make me laugh. He was crazy. If you saw him in Real Geniuses, or what's the other one where it was like an airplane slapstick. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name right
now. Secret.
Top Secret, man.
Top Secret.
Val Kilmer was
that shit is classic.
Oh man, Val was, and I will admit, even though I hated Joe Schumacher movies as far as Batman was concerned, I actually did have hope when Val Kilmer played Batman, because he actually had the look. I would actually argue, at least up through the '90s, he was the best. He had the best look for Batman when you saw him in the suit. That jawline was cut for Batman. It was perfect. But Joel Schumacher, man, anyway.
Yeah, that movie didn't do him no justice.
But Val having throat cancer, this might be the very last time you see him on screen, but it was done well.
Yes.
Really done well. His character's presence, his relationship with Maverick, the history since the 80s to now, it made so much sense that I had to take my hat off to that.
Yeah, that was a good nod, because I said it in my reaction reviews that I didn't think Val Kilmer was in this at all. I thought they were playing the character as he was dead. So when he showed up on screen, I was like, oh shit, he's in this. And that they worked in why he couldn't, his throat cancer and why he couldn't talk. They wrote that into the character of Iceman.
Yeah, they did.
That happened to him. So when you see him on screen, it's just how he is. So he's typing and talking. It's like, dude, that was a really good scene.
Yeah, it was.
And that scene was so good. I almost teared up when Tom Cruise started crying. I almost teared up. Like,
yeah, I feel you. They even worked the texting in so well that it had emotional resonance.
Yes.
To the point where, Val is just looking at Iceman is just looking at him, and what is it? Maverick says something else, and all he does is point to the screen to what he originally wrote. I want to talk about work. But it
Yeah, I
was
want to
so
talk
good.
about work.
It was like, oh my God, you know.
Yeah, that was one of the standout scenes in the whole movie, just for a one-to-one actors working with each other face to face. That
Yes,
was a great freaking scene.
yes,
It
it
was
was.
a great scene. And
Yes.
it was really charged emotionally. And this is what I got from that scene. And I was thinking about this when I wanted to do my review for it. If you watch the first Top Gun movie, Iceman is Tom Cruise's or Maverick's fucking antithesis, right?
Yes.
They're
Yes.
both good pilots, but they're gonna have static with each other. They're each other's competition. By
Mm-hmm.
the end of that movie, you have them gaining respect for each other. They know they're actually good,
Mm-hmm.
and you see that friendship starting with them.
Yeah.
By the time you get to this movie, you see that Iceman and Maverick are basically Apollo Creed and Rocky. That's who they are. They're two dudes who have a lot of respect for each other, both respectively really good, but have a lot of respect for each other.
Yeah.
That's why Tom Cruise still talk. That's why Maverick character still talks with Iceman, and Iceman gets him out of trouble and stuff. He has that level of respect for him. That is his fucking wingman from that point on. He
It
earned
is.
that respect,
He did. He did earn that
and
respect.
they maintained it for over 30 years. It's like, dude,
You could also see, in certain respects, Maverick was stuck in time.
yeah,
He still dressed the same way he did back in the 80s. He was still riding the first motorcycle in the beginning of the
he had a
movie.
bunch of other ones, but he still had that one too.
He still had that one, then he upgraded, but he's still on a motorcycle with no helmet. I mean, he had no wife, no kids. In a way, he was stuck in time, and Iceman continued to live. But here's the thing that I really like about their relationship, and it goes to something you just said. The respect they had, they kind of show you why.
Mhm.
They show you the core of that relationship, and in that scene where they're talking or they're conversing, and there is actually a scene where Kilmer's character speaks, and they had this kind
Mhm.
of they had to create that because I guess Val
Yeah,
couldn't really speak,
he
but when
spoke
they
a little bit, but they used his son's voice too
to make that
to
happen,
mix,
yeah,
mix it together. Yeah.
yeah. But something that he said in that moment was so powerful. He was basically saying the Navy needs Maverick.
Mhm.
Rooster needs Maverick. In other words, if you look at both films were dealing with masculinity, and they were
Mhm.
saying that there's a very particular type of masculinity that we're losing, and
Right.
the overabundance and bureaucracy and politics and political correctness is dismantling a very needed part of masculinity, especially when it comes to military protection
Mhm.
in general. And so, what you have in these pilots in both movies is this kind of brazen arrogance on the surface. But when you get past the surface, you have a dedication and a willingness to sacrifice to protect others. And that's what they were saying was missing. So when he's telling Maverick, he didn't say they need Pete. He didn't
Mhm.
say they need Pete. They said both the Navy and this young dude, they both need Maverick. In other words, they both need manhood. They
Right.
need unchecked, unapologetic, risk-taking
Man.
bravery and courage. They need manhood. And the only way they're going to get that lesson is through Maverick. Because again, at the end of the day, and
Demonstrate.
I think they even say this in the trailer, all the pilots they pulled together in both movies were considered the best of the best. So
Mhm.
who's going to teach the best of the best?
Right.
So they bring in this cat that can push their boundaries in ways they can't even imagine. But it's more than just having their boundaries pushed. It really comes back to how we understand what manhood is.
Yeah.
The sacrifice, the risk taking, the willingness to go beyond one's perceived limits and to develop a certain honor, a certain respect for one another in the midst of that, form a team to
Mhm.
accomplish a goal. These are principles in manhood that are fairly universal. And
Right.
so both films to me are kind of an ode to manhood.
Mhm.
And they
It
do
is.
this one with an update damn near 40 years later, or more than 40 years. They do an update to fit the modern moment, but they're still making the same statement they made in the 80s. There's a missing component to manhood that is actually hurting us because
Right.
we don't see it anymore. So when he
Yeah.
said, the Navy and Rooster need Maverick, there was a lot to that statement.
Yeah. There's a lot in it, and he actually, the thing that's actually makes it get over with the rest of the cast or the rest of the characters of that cast is that he actually demonstrates.
Yes.
He
Yes.
shows and pushes past his own limits to
Yes.
show them that it can be done.
Yes.
And once he shows them that it can be done, he gets their buy-in.
Yeah.
because the other, you see, I liked John Hamm's character. John Hamm's character, he was killing it because I hated his character, so he
Exactly.
was doing his job right.
Yeah.
Cyclone went in there and he wanted to give him the mollycoddle. You know, we're gonna do it in double the time. You get to go slower, you get to go higher, and it was like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
But he came in, Maverick came in doing that masculine thing. Sometimes you bend the rules, sometimes you break them. He broke the rules and proved to them that it can be done. Now what? Now what are you going to say?
But here's the thing, though. The whole reason him and John Hamm were going head to head is Maverick kept saying, if we do it your way, they're going to die.
Exactly.
My goal is not only to have the mission accomplished, but to have them come home. When we come back to protection. And so it's interesting when we see these stereotypes about manhood and toxic masculinity. What we forget is some of the core principles of manhood are about protection. They're about sacrifice. So there's an emotional sacrifice he makes for Rooster and protecting his mother's memory. There's also a sacrifice of his career that he makes to make sure these young pilots can live at the end of the movie. So that bravado, that in your face pushing beyond limits is not. See, a lot of people misinterpret manhood to say that that's all it is, that men just cause problems and go back beyond limits just to do that. Well, some do. But what we forget about is there are plenty that do so for the benefit of those they love. If you got, look, if you got a man in your family that worked 12, 13 hours a day doing some shit he hated to make sure you ate so you could go to school, and the only person you can thank is your mother, you missed a moment. And that's what the film is trying to tell you. You don't have to have Maverick in a jet. You can have a grown-ass man that's been in your life the entire time, making sure you had food on the table and clothes on your back. And if you just took that for granted, then you're missing what Maverick is bringing. And that's what the film is trying to show us. Men play a role that gets forgotten. You know,
can't be replaced. To Marcus Grasby's question, do you have a website for the shop? Shop is on Facebook. We don't have a website itself, but we are on Facebook under the same name, Stand Up Comics. You can find us there and contact us through there.
Okay, beautiful. In the meantime, take advantage of the information at the bottom of the screen. Donate to the shop using Cash App, order your books using Venmo, or become a supporter and a patron of the shop with a monthly donation so we can have a shop of our own. And that's the point. Shout out to Jughead for appreciate the contribution. Jughead said, greetings. Dr. Johnson, your guest, Black Manosphere Comic Book Shop. I'm looking forward to watching Top Gun 2 this Friday. Love and respect. Yeah. But I don't want you to miss the deeper moment, the deeper story, the deeper part of the film. It really is an ode to manhood. And it goes beyond. And really what it does is it challenges these superficial ideas about toxic masculinity. And what it argues, because technically speaking, Maverick is the embodiment of what most people would call toxic. But if you look past the surface, you see sacrifice, you see protection, you see care, even in the midst of his own brokenness, and putting his own needs aside. Right, the relationship with Rooster, I would say, would be a need to connect with his best friend's son. The relationship with a female character, you know, his love interest in the film, but he puts all of that secondary to the mission, and the mission having to do more than accomplishing the military goal, but making sure those soldiers come back alive.
Right.
Part of manhood that much of society has buried and dismissed, and we need to actually look at that.
Right. Yeah, no sacrificial lambs. Sacrificial lambs. He doesn't want to lose anybody like that. He's not throwing anybody's life away.
Yeah. So I think we can kind of close out here. I want you to tell people what to do to support. I want you to let them know, you know, the options they have, and tell them why.
So the why of it is that being that what was going on back in March with the shop has taken a lot of hits, and it's possible that we will close this month. And I don't want the shop actually to close. So once again, I'm trying to get out there and actually to help with some good brothers, actually get people to help me make up this difference so I can keep this place open and completely change that model of how we run the shop, how a brick and mortar store functions to actually make it more profitable. Post-pandemic, it's tough. And I understood that when I took it on, but I am at a point now that I cannot funnel any more of my own personal money into the shop. I cannot do that. That I have to get the buyback from the community or people who want to support the actual shop. For what I know, I am the only Black comic book store owner in this area, the only one. There was two of us. The other guy went down last month, the month before. They went away in San Francisco, so I'm the only one. And for me, I'm really tied to this place. I really love this place, and I want to keep it open for the community. But you know, there's only so much I can actually put into it before it starts affecting everything else in my life. Shop needs to stand on its own in a sense. So one of the ways it can do that is through you supporting it if you so choose. Um, Set up the Patreon for that. So the Patreon is there and you can donate on a monthly basis so that you are actually funding and actually buying a piece of the shop in a sense to actually support something that you love. And it's a donation. You want comics for it? Put it in the message. I will send you comics for shit. Right. Later on, I will make some Patreon only material, which will probably be watch parties and stuff like that because YouTube likes to flag me for that. Do it on Patreon. There's a way we can do it to make it, you know, fun for people. But initially, it's about trying to keep this place open. Otherwise, it will close up. Probably by the end of this week, I will close it up and have to get all of this shit out of here, so I don't have to deal with all the rest of the legal shit. Right. So I'm just trying to keep this place alive and keep it alive for other people, not myself. I have not pulled a check from this place in over a year and a half. So anytime you see me here working, I'm here donating love to this place. It's not about, you know, me getting paid. It's about keeping this stuff open and functioning. The model does need to change, which is what I came in trying to do, and spinning a lot of plates to try to make that happen. So that's what that's about. That's what this is about. So if you want to order stuff, standupcomics21 at Gmail. Drop your orders in there. Drop your address. I'll see what the books are, total it up, give you the invoice. You pay the shit, books are on the way to you. If you want to just donate to the shop on a monthly basis, that's what the Patreon's for. Patreon, Artisan MC, you can donate. Any tier is your choice. I just made 3 tiers just because it's your choice. I still do my YouTube shows. If you want to donate through Cash App, you don't mess with Venmo or PayPal or any of that. Artisan MC on PayPal, $ Artisan MC on Cash App, and just put for the shop in the message, and I'll know exactly what it's for, and I will divert it directly to that account. So that's part of what this is. These brothers were good enough to actually hear what I was dealing with and going through, and they wanted to try to help in some kind of way. So I appreciate that.
Here's the thing. Check the private chat real quick, but I do want to say this. One of the things we talk about as black men, and especially you know, in the space online on YouTube, we talk about what we do in the world, what we create. Now, I want to be clear. This brother put his balls on the table to make a vision happen. All right. We need to support that, because when you look at the space and social media and all the stuff people talk about, how many people actually create something and put their all behind it to make it happen, especially something that is a resource to all of us, you know, based on how much we talk about this shit, how much we're interested in this stuff. You know, why not support the brother who's actually willing to address your concerns and cater to your interests? But the point is, my respect for Artisan, my respect for Antonio, is that he put so much on the line and he backed his word with his actions. And I can't do nothing but respect that. And if I'm going to respect that, I got to support it, because the man operated as a man. He saw a problem. He tried to fill it. He put his money on the table. He put his time on the table. He put his energy on the table and provided a resource that many of us can benefit from. And all he's asking is that we support him in doing so. Because we already know as Black folk, particularly ADOS, we got about 2% of the national wealth. Many of us don't get to start businesses with a great deal of capital. We usually have to come in on some other means. We don't generally have a lot of support. We're not always in a position to secure loans. So a lot of Black businesses that tend to do well have to do well with the support of others in the community that understand what that trial looks like, what those issues look like for us. Right? He bought a brick and mortar shop. That takes a lot. So I hope you support him in that endeavor, because really you're supporting yourself. You're supporting each other. We're creating something here, and this is a resource that you can't sleep on. So shout out to you. I really respect everything you've done. And you let me know what else I can do to support. And I am going to tell you, I need you to create a couple more tiers on that Patreon.
Okay.
I need you to create a couple more tiers. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but I need you to add a couple because, yeah. Anything else you want to say before we transition out?
Just thank you to everybody who actually supports my channel, supports the shop. I really do appreciate it. It's what do they say? It's a pride swallowing thing to have to get up here and let people know, like, yeah, this is not going well. But look, if I could have did it all on my own, I would have did it all on my own, because that's just how I am. I don't usually like having to ask people for help, but that's, I understand as I've gotten older, that's part of our problems as Black men, is a lot of times we fail to ask for help because we are more apt to get people not wanting to help us. That in some ways it makes you seem like you're weak. I can't look at all the stuff happening in the world around us with, rainbow flags and everything else and not understand that those people are actually helping each other. That's why their agendas are getting pushed. So as Black men or Black people, that's what we have to do for each other. So
right.
If you choose to donate, I thank you. And if you don't choose to donate, thank you just the same. It's a choice. It's a personal choice. My personal choice was this. I couldn't stand here and watch what happened to the place just go on. I couldn't stand there in good conscience and watch that happen. That's not how I'm built. I couldn't just do that. So yeah, fuck it. I tried. I tried to keep it up and going, and I did for a while. But it's getting to the point where I'm not independently fucking wealthy. I'm not. I work for a living, and I still want to have this here for people, but it needs that help. So if you can, I appreciate it.
All right, brother. Appreciate that. Yeah. So look out. If I'm not mistaken, you're going to see a good brother BGS do a show very soon in the next, I think, few minutes. If I'm not mistaken, where we'll continue on to press for support for stand-up comics. So thanks for coming through, man.
Yeah. Last thing, there will be a GoFundMe if you would like to help with that. I'm doing it right now. I forgot to do it last night because I fell asleep. The GoFundMe will be up there, and I'll have that information up on my community tab or Dr. T's tab, wherever I can get that out, where you guys can support. So thank you for that.
All right. See, give somebody homework. They don't listen to you. Nothing, man. Anyway. All right, man. Thanks a lot, brother.
Appreciate you, Dr. T. Thank you, Chad.
All right, y'all. Shout out to y'all for supporting the show. Like, share, subscribe, join, and donate if you will. Don't forget to support stand-up comics. Make sure that they're able to get that work because they need it and they're here for you. And this is one of the few brick and mortar spaces that the Manosphere can tap into, that Black men in general can tap into. Of course, anybody can. But again, when you talk about resources available as Black men or as a Manosphere, how many of them do we actually have? So let's try and take care of the ones we do. And I appreciate your time. I will see y'all soon. I hope you have a good one. Peace. I am here to tell you, brothers, we are not criminals by birth, perennial rapists, incapable intellects, man-children, sperm donors, child support wellsprings, success objects, walking phalluses, ATM machines, lottery tickets, unintelligent henchmen, valueless assassins, pro bono mercenaries, unpaid bodyguards, interchangeable stepfather, child discipline proxies, unpaid repairmen, workhorses, emotional tampons, or any other socially accepted dehumanizing stereotype. We are thinkers, inventors, innovators, leaders, fathers, and men. Embrace your humanity, know your worth, and extend your time, attention, and resources only to those who genuinely respect you. And remember, your worth is not defined by meeting other people's narcissistic and selfish and unrealistic needs. You define your worth. Peace.